It was a bright, sunny Saturday morning. The kind of day where you just want to sit outside and enjoy the fresh air. I, James Carter, stepped out of my brand new house. I had just moved in a few days ago, and I was so excited. My new place was awesome. It had a big yard with lots of space to run around. And the best part? Tall, beautiful trees all over. They were super green and made my yard look like a little forest. I loved those trees. They made everything feel peaceful and happy. I'm a quiet guy. I don't talk a lot or make a big fuss. I like keeping things simple. I don't go around telling everyone my business, and I don't ask about theirs either. That's just how I am. Most people in the neighborhood didn't know me yet. I was the new guy, and I was okay with that. I didn't need them to know everything about me right away. I liked it quiet. I liked it secret. But guess what? Not everyone felt the same way. Someone was watching me. Someone sneaky. Someone who didn't like my big, tall trees one bit. Her name was Karen. Oh boy, Karen was something else. She wasn't just any neighbor. Nope. She was the boss of the HOA. HOA stands for Homeowners Association. It's like a club that makes rules for the neighborhood. Karen loved being in charge of it. She walked around like she owned the whole street. Not just her house, but everybody's house. She had a loud voice and a big clipboard she carried everywhere. She'd point at things and tell people what to do. Fix your grass, she'd say. Paint your fence, she'd yell. Everyone listened to her because she acted so important. But me? I wasn't so sure about Karen. See, I'd only been in my new house for a few days. I was still unpacking boxes and figuring out where to put my stuff. I didn't know all the rules yet. And honestly, I didn't care too much. I just wanted to enjoy my new place. My yard was my favorite spot. Those trees? They were like my friends. They'd been there forever, standing tall and strong. I'd sit under them and feel calm. It was my little happy place. That Saturday morning, I walked outside to check on my yard. The sun was shining, birds were chirping, and everything felt perfect. I looked at my trees and smiled. They were so cool. Some were so tall they almost touched the sky. Others had big, wide branches that made lots of shade. I thought, this is my home now. I'm going to love it here. But then, I felt something weird. Like someone was staring at me. I turned around, but I didn't see anyone. Not yet. Still, I had this funny feeling in my tummy. Something wasn't right. That's when I remembered Karen. I'd seen her before, walking up and down the street. She'd passed my house a couple times already. Each time, she'd stop and look at my yard. Not in a nice way, though. She'd squint her eyes and frown. Like my yard made her mad or something. I didn't get it. What was wrong with my yard? It was just trees and grass. Nothing crazy. But Karen? She didn't like it. I could tell. She had that look like she was planning something. Now, let me tell you a little more about me. I'm not loud or showy. I don't brag or act big. I'm just James. Plain old James, or so people thought. The neighbors didn't know much about me, and that was fine. I didn't go knocking on doors saying, "Hi, I'm here." Nope. I stayed quiet. I waved if someone waved first, but that was it. I liked my privacy. I liked my peace. But here's the thing, Karen didn't know me either. She didn't know who I really was. And that was going to be a big surprise for her later. A huge surprise. She thought I was just some regular guy who moved in next door. Oh, she was so wrong. See, I had a secret. A really cool secret. But I wasn't ready to tell anyone yet. Not the neighbors, not Karen, not anybody. I kept it tucked away, like a treasure in a box. Nobody could guess it by looking at me. I didn't wear fancy clothes or drive a shiny car. I looked normal. Just a guy with a house and some trees. But Karen? She didn't care about normal. She saw my trees, and she decided they were trouble. Why? I had no idea. Maybe they were too tall for her. Maybe they blocked her view. Or maybe she just liked bossing people around. Whatever it was, she had her eyes on me. And my trees. That morning, As I stood outside, I started wondering. What was Karen's deal? Why did she keep staring at my yard? Did she think my trees were ugly? Or too messy? I didn't know yet. But I had a feeling she wasn't going to leave me alone. She wasn't the type to let things go. She was the type to make a fuss. A big fuss. And me? I wasn't the type to fight back right away. I'd wait. I'd watch. I'd see what she did next. Because even though I'm quiet, I'm not weak. I'm smart. And I was ready for whatever Karen had up her sleeve. So, there I was, standing in my yard, looking at my trees. The sun was warm, the air was fresh, and everything seemed okay. But deep down, I knew something was coming. Something big. Karen was out there, somewhere, with her clipboard and her bossy attitude. She didn't like my trees, and she didn't like me keeping to myself. She was going to try something. I could feel it. And when she did, she'd find out I wasn't just some regular guy. Nope. I was James Carter. And I had a secret she'd never see coming. Monday came fast after that sunny Saturday. I, James Carter, was still getting used to my new house. I liked my quiet mornings, sipping juice and looking at my big, tall trees. But that Monday? Oh boy, it wasn't quiet for long. I stepped outside to grab my mail, and there she was, Karen. She stood right on the edge of my yard, holding her big clipboard like it was a shield. Her eyes were squinting hard at my trees. She didn't look happy. Not one bit. Karen was the HOA boss. HOA means Homeowners Association, like a group that makes rules for our street. She loved telling everyone what to do. And now, she was staring at my yard like it was the worst thing she'd ever seen. "Hey, you," she shouted, marching over to me. Her voice was sharp, like a teacher yelling at a kid who forgot homework. "Those trees are too tall," she snapped. She pointed at them with her pen, like they'd done something bad. I blinked at her. Too tall? My trees? I didn't get it. They were just trees. Big, green, and awesome. I liked them a lot. They've been here forever," I said, trying to keep my voice nice and calm. I didn't want a fight. I'm not that kind of guy. I just wanted her to leave me alone. But Karen? She didn't care what I said. Not even a little. She shook her head so fast her hair bounced. "Nope. They're against the rules," she yelled. "Too tall, too messy, too everything." I scratched my head. Rules? What rules? I'd only been in the house a few days. Nobody gave me a rule book. But Karen acted like I should have known. She held up her clipboard and waved it in my face. "It's right here," she said, pointing at some scribbly words I couldn't even read from where I stood. "Trees can't be that tall. They're a problem." A problem? My trees weren't hurting anyone. They just stood there, looking pretty. But Karen didn't see it that way. Her voice got louder. Really loud. "Cut them down," she barked at me. "Cut them down, or I'll handle it myself." Whoa. That sounded like a threat. Her finger was pointing at me now, sharp like a dagger. She looked so mad, her face turned red. I took a step back. I didn't know what to say. Cut down my trees? No way. I loved those trees. They were part of my yard, part of my new home. But Karen wasn't asking. She was telling. And she looked ready to do something crazy if I didn't listen. I glanced around. Some neighbors were watching. I saw curtains move and faces peek out of windows. A lady across the street smirked, like she thought this was funny. A guy next door leaned on his porch, grinning. They didn't say anything, but I could tell what they were thinking. "Oh, the new guy's in trouble now," they probably said to themselves. "Karen's gonna win this one." They thought I'd just give up. They thought I'd grab an axe and chop down my trees because Karen told me to. They thought I'd roll over like a scared puppy. But me? I wasn't scared. Not really. Sure, Karen was loud. Sure, she was bossy. But I wasn't going to let her push me around that easy. I stayed quiet. I didn't yell back. I didn't argue. I just looked at her, standing there with her clipboard and her angry face. "Okay," I said softly. "I'll think about it." That's all I gave her. No promises, no fighting, just a calm little answer. Karen huffed. She crossed her arms and stared at me like she could burn holes through me with her eyes. You'd better, she snapped. Then she turned and stomped off, her shoes clicking on the sidewalk. The neighbors kept watching as she left. I could feel their eyes on me. They were waiting for me to do something. Maybe cry. Maybe run inside. Maybe grab a ladder and start cutting my trees right then and there. But I didn't. I just stood there, hands in my pockets, looking at my yard. My trees were still there, tall and proud. Karen hadn't won yet. And she wasn't going to. Not if I had anything to say about it. See, I had a plan. Not a loud plan. Not a big, showy one. A quiet plan. A smart plan. Something brewing in my head that Karen couldn't even dream of. She thought she knew me. She thought I was just some new guy who didn't know the rules. She thought she could boss me around because I didn't talk much. But she didn't know the real me. Not yet. And that was her mistake. After she left, I walked over to my trees. I put my hand on one of the trunks. It felt rough and strong. These trees weren't going anywhere. Not today. Not because of Karen. I looked up at the branches, swaying a little in the breeze. They were mine. My yard, my trees, my home. Karen could yell all she wanted. She could wave her clipboard and make her threats. But I wasn't going to let her take this away from me. The neighbors finally stopped staring. The curtains closed. The guy on the porch went back inside. Everything got quiet again. But I knew it wasn't over. Karen wasn't the type to give up. She'd be back. Maybe with more rules. Maybe with more yelling. Maybe with something worse. And me? I'd be ready. I wasn't just going to sit there and let her win. I had something up my sleeve. Something big. Something she'd never see coming. I smiled to myself. Just a little smile. Karen thought she was the boss of everything. She thought she could scare me. She thought I'd do whatever she said. But she didn't know who I really was. She didn't know what I could do. And when she found out? Oh, that was going to be a fun day. A really fun day. So, Monday wasn't so calm after all. Karen came, she yelled, she pointed. The neighbors watched and laughed. But I stayed cool. I stayed quiet. Because I knew something they didn't. I had a secret. A good one. And Karen? She was about to learn that messing with me and my trees was a big mistake. A week went by after Karen yelled at me about my trees. 7 whole days. I, James Carter, kept living my quiet life. I went to work, came home, and looked at my yard every day. My trees were still there, tall and green, making me smile. I thought maybe Karen forgot about her big threat. Maybe she'd moved on to bossing someone else around. I hoped she'd leave me alone. But nope. Karen wasn't done. Not even close. It was Friday afternoon when it happened. I'd been at work all day, doing my job, keeping things normal. I was excited to get home, kick off my shoes, and relax. Maybe sit under my trees with a cold drink. But when I pulled into my driveway, my heart stopped. My yard? It was a nightmare. My trees? Gone. All of them. Chopped down. Nothing left but little stumps sticking out of the ground. It looked so sad, so empty. I couldn't believe my eyes. I jumped out of my car and just stood there, staring. My big, beautiful trees were history. Sawdust was all over the grass. Branches were piled up in a messy heap. And then I saw her, Karen. She was standing right in the middle of my yard, looking proud as ever. She had that smug smile on her face, the kind that says, I won, and you lost. Behind her were a bunch of workers in orange vests. They had saws and tools, and they were wiping sweat off their faces. Karen crossed her arms and looked at me like she was the queen of the world. Told you I'd take care of it, she sneered. Her voice was loud and mean. She pointed at the stumps with her clipboard. See? All fixed now. No more ugly trees breaking the rules. She laughed a little, like it was a big joke. The workers nodded, like they agreed with her. I felt my hands curl into fists. My chest got tight. I was mad, so mad I could feel my face getting hot. She'd gone too far. Way too far. But I didn't yell. I didn't run at her or scream. Nope. I kept my cool. I took a deep breath and stayed quiet. See, I'm not the kind of guy who loses it. I don't shout or throw tantrums. I think. I plan. And I'd been planning for something like this. I'd been watching Karen all week. Ever since she came to my yard with her big threats, I'd kept my eyes on her. And guess what? She'd messed up. Big time. Here's the thing, Karen loved her HOA rules. She waved that rule book around like it was gold. She told everyone to follow it or else. But me? I'd been sneaky. I'd gone to the mailbox late one night and found an old copy of the HOA rules someone threw out. I read it. Every page. And I learned something cool. To cut down trees like mine, you needed stuff. Permits. Papers. Notices. You had to tell the owner first and get the okay. It was all right there in black and white. But Karen? She didn't do any of that. I'd seen her around the neighborhood that week. She didn't go to the town office for permits. She didn't send me a letter saying, "Hey, I'm cutting your trees." She didn't even knock on my door to talk. Nope. She just showed up with her workers and chopped everything down. She broke her own rules. Every single one. No permits, no notices, nothing. She thought she could do whatever she wanted because she was the HOA boss. But she was wrong. I stood there, looking at her smug face, and I felt something else besides mad. I felt ready. Ready to turn this around. Karen thought she'd won. She thought I'd just cry about my trees and give up. She thought I'd be too scared to fight back. But I wasn't scared. I was calm. I unclenched my fists and shoved my hands in my pockets. I looked at her and said, "Okay, Karen. You did this." My voice was steady, not loud. She smirked even bigger, like she'd beaten me. "Yep," she said, all proud. "It's better now. You should thank me." Thank her? For ruining my yard? No way. But I didn't argue. I just nodded a little and turned back to my house. I could hear her laughing as I walked away. The workers started packing up their stuff. They didn't care. To them, it was just a job. But to me? It was personal. My trees were gone. My happy place was wrecked. And Karen thought she got away with it. Inside my house, I sat down and smiled. Just a tiny smile. Because I knew something Karen didn't. I'd been watching her, sure. But I'd also been waiting. Waiting for her to do something dumb. And she did. Chopping my trees without the right papers? That was against the law. Not just HOA rules, real laws. Big ones. She didn't know it yet, but she'd handed me everything I needed. I wasn't just mad anymore. I was ready to make her pay. See, Karen didn't get it. She thought she was so smart, so sneaky. She thought I was just some quiet guy who'd let her win. But I'd been taking notes. Every time she walked by my house that week, I watched. Every time she yelled at someone else, I listened. I saw how she acted like she could break rules and nobody would care. But I cared. And I wasn't going to let this slide. As I sat there, looking out my window at the stumps, I started thinking. What could I do? How could I fix this? I didn't want to just plant new trees and call it a day. No. I wanted Karen to learn a lesson. She couldn't mess with people's stuff and get away with it. Not my stuff. Not my trees. She thought she'd won this fight. Oh, she had no idea what was coming. No idea at all. The sun went down, and my yard got dark. The stumps looked lonely out there. But I wasn't lonely. I was busy. Busy thinking. Busy planning. Karen had made a big move, but it was the wrong one. She didn't know who I was, not really. She didn't know what I could do. And soon? She'd find out. She'd find out in a way she'd never forget. Friday came fast. A whole week had passed since Karen chopped down my trees. I, James Carter, had been waiting for this day. It was the day of the big HOA meeting. HOA means Homeowners Association. It's the group that makes rules for our neighborhood. Everyone on the street was going. They wanted to talk about yards, fences, and all that stuff. But me? I had something bigger in mind. Something huge. I'd spent the week getting ready. After Karen wrecked my yard, I didn't just sit around feeling sad. Nope. I got busy. I made a plan. I dug through papers, checked rules, and wrote things down. I knew Karen thought she'd won. She thought I'd give up and let her be the boss. But she didn't know me, not the real me. And Friday? That was the day she'd find out. The meeting was at the community center, just a short walk from my house. It started at 6 o'clock. I didn't go right away. I waited. I wanted to show up late on purpose. So, I put on my best suit. It was dark blue, with a shiny tie and clean shoes. I looked sharp. Not like the quiet guy in old jeans who moved in last week. Nope. This was a new James. A strong James. I grabbed a stack of papers I'd worked on all week and headed out the door. When I got there, the room was full. Neighbors sat in rows of chairs, chatting and nodding. Karen was up front, standing tall like she owned the place. She had her clipboard in one hand and a big smile on her face. She was talking loud, bragging to everyone. I fixed a big problem this week, she said, her voice bouncing off the walls. That new guy's yard? Those awful trees? All gone now? I took care of it. You're welcome. She laughed, and some people clapped. Others nodded, like she was a hero or something. I stood at the back of the room, watching her. She didn't see me yet. Nobody did. They were too busy listening to her big speech. The rules matter, she went on. No tall trees allowed. I made sure our street looks perfect now. She puffed out her chest, so proud of herself. I could feel my heart beating fast. Not because I was scared, because I was ready. Ready to change everything. I started walking down the aisle. Slow steps. My shoes clicked on the floor. A few people turned their heads. Then more. Whispers started. Who's that? Someone mumbled. Is that the new guy? Another asked. Karen kept talking, but her eyes flicked over to me. She rolled them, like I was just a bother. Oh, him, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. He's probably here to whine about his trees. She smirked and waved her hand, like I didn't matter. I didn't stop walking. I kept going, right up to the front. There was a podium, a little stand with a microphone. Karen was next to it, still talking. I stepped up to it and tapped the mic. A little thump sound came out. Everyone got quiet. Karen stopped mid-sentence and stared at me. What are you doing? She snapped. This is my meeting. I didn't answer her. Not yet. I just looked out at all the faces watching me. Neighbors. People who'd smirked when Karen cut my trees. People who thought I'd do nothing. Good evening, I said. My voice was steady. Not loud, not shaky, just clear. The room was so quiet now, you could hear a pin drop. My name is James Carter. I paused. I let that sink in. Then I added the big part. Federal Judge James Carter. Boom. That was it. The secret was out. The whole room froze. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. It was like time stopped. Karen's face? Oh, it was the best thing ever. Her smug grin melted away. Her mouth dropped open, like a fish gasping for air. Her eyes got wide, and her clipboard slipped a little in her hands. She didn't know what to say. For once, she was quiet. The neighbors stared too. The lady who'd smirked from her window? Her jaw was on the floor. The guy who'd watched from his porch? He sat up straight, blinking fast. They all looked at me like I'd turned into a superhero. I held up my stack of papers. I've got something to show you, I said. I started flipping through them, slow and calm. Karen cut down my trees last week. She didn't ask me. She didn't tell me. She just did it. I looked at her. She was turning red now, but not from being mad, from being caught. She said it was about HOA rules, I went on. But guess what? She broke the rules. Big ones. I held up one paper. You need permits to cut trees like mine. She didn't get any. I held up another. You have to send a notice first. She didn't do that either. I kept going, showing more pages. These are laws. Real laws. Not just HOA stuff. And Karen? She broke them all. The room started buzzing. People whispered to each other. A judge, someone said. She's in trouble now, another hissed. Karen tried to talk. That's not true, she shouted, but her voice was wobbly. I fixed the yard. I'm the boss here. She pointed at me, but her hand was shaking. I didn't back down. I looked right at her and said, you didn't just cut my trees, Karen. You broke the law. And I'm here to make it right. My words were simple, but they hit hard. Everyone heard them. Everyone understood. I put my papers down and crossed my arms. There are fines for this, I said. Big ones. And I've got proof. You can't just mess with people's stuff and walk away. Karen's face went white. She looked around, like she wanted to run. But she couldn't. Everyone was watching her now, not me. They saw her for what she was. A rule breaker. A bully who got caught. The room stayed silent for a second. Then someone clapped. Just one person. Then another. Soon, half the neighbors were clapping. Not for Karen, for me. They didn't expect this. They thought I was just the quiet new guy. But now they knew. I wasn't just James. I was Judge James. And Karen? She'd picked the wrong guy to mess with. Friday night was wild with that big HOA meeting, but by Monday, everything changed. I, James Carter, woke up early that morning. The sun was just coming up, and my yard still looked empty with all those stumps. My trees were gone, but something else was different too. Karen was gone. Not just from my yard, gone from everything. She wasn't the HOA boss anymore. She wasn't strutting around the street with her clipboard. Nope. She was out, and it happened fast. After I told everyone at the meeting that I was a federal judge, things moved quick. I showed them the papers, proof that Karen broke big laws when she cut my trees. No permits, no notices, nothing, right? She couldn't argue her way out of it. Not this time. The neighbors listened to me. They saw the truth. And they didn't like what Karen did. By the end of the weekend, the HOA had a special vote. They kicked her off the board. Just like that. No more bossy Karen telling everyone what to do. But that wasn't all. Breaking laws comes with a price. A big one. I didn't just want her out of the HOA, I wanted her to pay for what she did. So, I sent my papers to the right people. People who handle laws and fines. They looked at everything and said, yep, Karen's in trouble. She got hit with thousands of dollars in fines. Thousands. That's a lot of money. Way more than she expected. And there was more. I started a lawsuit. That's like a big fight in court. She couldn't wiggle out of it. No sneaky tricks, no loud yelling, just facts. She messed with my trees, and now she had to face the consequences. By Monday morning, word spread fast. Neighbors talked about it over their fences. Karen's gone, one lady said. She's got fines up to her ears, a guy laughed. Everyone knew. And you know what? They stopped smirking at me. Before, when Karen chopped my trees, they'd peeked out their windows and grinned. They thought it was funny. They thought I'd just take it. But now, they didn't laugh. They didn't smirk. They looked at me different, like I was someone important. Someone they didn't want to mess with. A few of them even came over to my house that day. First, it was Mrs. Thompson from across the street. She knocked on my door, holding a little plant in a pot. "Hi, James," she said, her voice soft. "I'm sorry about your trees. I didn't know Karen was so wrong. Want this plant? Maybe it'll grow big someday." I smiled and took it. "Thanks," I said. I didn't need to say more. She nodded and left. Then Mr. Davis from next door showed up. He rubbed his neck, looking shy. Sorry I didn't help you," he mumbled. "If you want, I'll plant some new trees for you. Free." I thanked him too. It felt nice, not because I needed their plants, but because they saw what happened. They saw I wasn't just some quiet guy to push around. I didn't gloat, though. Gloating's when you brag and act all big about winning. I didn't need to do that. I didn't run around saying, "Ha, I beat Karen." Nope. That's not me. I won, sure, but I stayed calm. I stayed quiet. That's how I like it. After Mrs. Thompson and Mr. Davis left, I grabbed my coffee mug and went to my porch. I sat down in my chair, took a sip, and watched the world go by. Birds chirped. Cars rolled down the street. Everything was peaceful again. My yard was still full of stumps, but I'd fix that later. For now, I just enjoyed the quiet. Karen. She was somewhere else, probably mad and yelling about her fines. Maybe she was trying to figure out how to pay them. Or maybe she was packing her bags to move away. I didn't know, and I didn't care. She wasn't my problem anymore. She'd tried to mess with me, and it backfired. Big time. She thought she could cut my trees and walk away like nothing happened. But I showed her and everyone that you can't do that. Not to me. Not to Judge James Carter. The message was clear. Super clear. Mess with me, and you'll regret it. Simple as that. I didn't have to shout it from the rooftops. I didn't have to wave my judge badge around. People just knew. The neighbors got it. Karen got it. And anyone else who thought about crossing me? They'd get it too. I wasn't mean. I wasn't loud. I was just fair. You leave me alone, I leave you alone. You mess with my stuff, I fix it my way. As I sat on my porch, sipping my coffee, I thought about my trees. I missed them. They'd been tall and shady, perfect for hot days. But they were gone now, and that was okay. I'd plant new ones someday. Maybe small ones that'd grow big over time. I wasn't in a rush. I had my house, my yard, my quiet life. That's what mattered. Karen couldn't take that from me, no matter how hard she tried. The sun climbed higher in the sky. Kids rode their bikes down the street, laughing. A dog barked somewhere nearby. Everything felt normal again. Better than normal, even. Because now, people knew who I was. Not just the new guy. Not just the quiet guy. The guy who stood up to Karen and won. The guy who made things right. And that felt good. Really good. I finished my coffee and leaned back in my chair. The stumps in my yard didn't look so bad anymore. They were like little reminders. Reminders that I'd fought back. Reminders that justice happened. Karen was gone, the fines were real, and the lawsuit was coming. She'd lost everything she cared about: her power, her bossy attitude, her control. And me? I'd kept what I cared about. My home. My peace. By Monday afternoon, the street was buzzing with talk. Karen's out, people said. James is a judge, they whispered. Some waved at me from their yards. I waved back, nice and easy. I didn't need to say much. The story told itself. Mess with me, and you'll regret it. That's all anyone needed to know. Simple. Fair. Done. Okay, friends, let's sit back and think about this crazy story for a minute. It's all done now. Karen's gone, my trees are stumps, and I'm sipping coffee on my porch again. I'm James Carter, the quiet guy who turned out to be a federal judge. And wow, what a ride it was. But here's the thing I want you to remember: sometimes, the person you think you can push around is the one holding all the cards. That's what this story is really about. And it's a big lesson not just for Karen, but for all of us. See, Karen thought she had it all figured out. She saw me move in with my big trees and my quiet ways. She thought, oh, he's just some new guy. I can boss him around. He won't fight back. She judged me by what she saw on the outside. A guy in old jeans, unpacking boxes, not saying much. To her, I looked weak. Easy to pick on. She didn't know I was a judge. She didn't know I had a plan. She didn't know I was ready to stand up and make things right. And when she found out, oh boy, it hit her hard. Like a big surprise she never saw coming. Karen learned that lesson the hard way. She lost her HOA job, got stuck with huge fines, and now she's facing a lawsuit. All because she thought she could mess with me and get away with it? She didn't stop to think, hey, maybe this guy's more than he seems. Nope. She just charged in, chopping my trees, acting like the queen of the street. But here's the funny part, I didn't even have to yell or get mad to win. I just stayed calm, used my smarts, and let the truth do the work. That's what holding all the cards means. You don't always need to be loud to be strong. And maybe, just maybe, this story is a little reminder for all of us. Don't judge people by what you see on the outside. You know how you look at someone and think, oh, they're this, or oh, they're that. Like if they're quiet, they're shy. Or if they're loud, they're tough. But people aren't that simple. The quiet ones. They might surprise you. Like me. I didn't talk much, but I had power Karen didn't expect. The same could be true for anyone. Your friend who doesn't say a lot. Maybe they're super brave inside. Your neighbor who seems boring. Maybe they've got cool secrets. You never know until you give them a chance. Think about it. What if Karen had been nice to me instead? What if she'd knocked on my door and said, "Hey, James, welcome. Let's talk about your trees." Things could have been so different. She wouldn't be in trouble now. She'd still have her HOA job. Maybe we'd even be friends, sipping lemonade together. But she didn't do that. She judged me fast, decided I was no big deal, and went after my trees. That's what happens when you think you know everything about someone just by looking. You miss the real story. So here's my advice, friends, stay kind out there. Be nice to people, even if they seem different or quiet or whatever. You don't have to be best buddies with everyone, but a little kindness goes a long way. It's like planting a seed. You don't know what'll grow from it, but it's usually something good. If Karen had been kind, she wouldn't have lost so much. And me? I didn't need to be mean to win. I just used the truth and stayed fair. Kindness and fairness, they're like superpowers. They don't always make a lot of noise, but they're strong. I'm back to my quiet life now. Sitting on my porch, watching the birds, thinking about new trees to plant. The neighbors wave at me sometimes, and I wave back. They don't smirk anymore. They don't peek out their windows laughing. They know I'm more than just the new guy. And that feels nice. Not because I want them to be scared of me, I don't. I just want them to see that everyone's got something special inside. Even the quiet ones. Even me. So what's the big takeaway here? Maybe it's this: don't underestimate people. The ones who don't brag or show off might be the strongest of all. They're like hidden treasures, waiting for the right moment to shine. Karen didn't see that, and it cost her. But you can see it. You can look at the people around you and wonder, what's their story? What's their surprise? It's fun to think about. And it makes the world a little better when we don't judge too fast. I hope you liked this story, friends. It's wild, right? Trees getting chopped, a big meeting, a judge stepping up, it's got it all. But it's more than just a fun tale. It's a little nudge to be kind, to be fair, and to give people a chance. The quiet ones might surprise you. The loud ones might too. Everyone's got something going on, and that's what makes life interesting. So, I'll see you in the next story. I've got more to tell, more twists, more surprises, more lessons. Stick around, because you never know what's coming next. Maybe it'll be about a sneaky cat or a brave kid or something totally crazy. Whatever it is, I'll keep it simple and fun, just for you. Stay kind out there, okay? Wave at your neighbors, smile at your friends, and don't chop anyone's trees without asking. Deal? Oh, and one last thing, what's your takeaway from this one? What did you learn from me and Karen and all this tree trouble? Drop it below, I love hearing from you. Tell me what stuck with you. Was it the surprise? The justice? The idea of being kind? I'm curious. Let's chat about it. Until next time, take care and keep being awesome.